There have been a lot of really great questions coming in from previous AddOhms videos, and so I want to do something a little bit different and highlight a few of them. Here are 3 questions that came up recently. Question 1. LEDs and batteries. There have been a lot of questions about LEDs with batteries. For example, one question was about putting 4 LEDs in series with a 12-volt battery. And another question was about using a 3-volt LED with 2 AA batteries, which outputs about 3 volts. These ideas are called bad design. Why? Well, let's look at the 4 LEDs in series with a 12-volt supply to see. So I went into the lab and put 4 LEDs in series and connected them to a 12-volt supply. We can see here they're drawing about 12 milliamps without a resistor. Remember that LEDs each have a unique forward voltage, and in this case I measured that for each of these that they are 3.1, 2.9, 3.0, and 3.0 volts. What this means is that in this situation, none of the LEDs are fully turned on, and so they all have some internal resistance. That internal resistance is what is limiting the current. Now, you might be thinking, hey, this is great, no resistor is needed, and this may qualify as a it works situation. However, here's 2 reasons that this is a bad idea. First, watch what happens if one of the LEDs fails and becomes a short circuit. I'll simulate it with a piece of wire. With only one LED out of this string, now there's over 80 milliamps flowing through the circuit. And remember, most of these LEDs are only rated for 20 milliamps. Second, what happens if the battery's voltage is slightly higher when it's new? Just to help illustrate, here I'm turning up the voltage from 9 volts to 15 volts while keeping track of the current in this graph. See how quickly the current flow goes up with the voltage? We would call this a nonlinear relationship. And just for comparison, this graph line shows when a resistor is used. See how stable or linear that the current flow is. So, can you use an LED and a battery without a resistor? Well, okay, technically, yes, you can. If you fully understand how LEDs work, then you can do this type of design safely. However, I personally never would. Not providing an external current limit is a dangerous way to design with LEDs. Question 2. Videos. The most common question I receive is, how do you record videos like this? So real quick, here's a picture of my camera and green screen setup. And then after I record everything I want to capture, I use software like Motion 5 and Final Cut Pro to post-process all of the video together. FYI, if you follow my blog at baldengineer.com, I do include behind the scenes for each AddOhms video that I create. In the future, I may make a more detailed tutorial, but for now, know that I'm using Motion. Question 3. AC and DC. Ganesh asked a question from the AC and DC video. If a 1.5 volt sine wave is superimposed with 10 volts DC, what is the result, AC or DC? Well, the answer to this question is both. Let's look at this graph. The x-axis will be time, and the y-axis will be voltage. Now, there are a lot of ways to draw 1.5 volts as a sine wave, so I'll just make it 1.5 volts from the top to the bottom of the waveform, which is called peak to peak. When you add a constant voltage like the 10 volts DC, this is called a bias. And so that means the entire signal is shifted by that DC voltage, which in this case is 10 volts. Now we can see how both the AC and DC components of the signal are added together. And by the way, almost all signals have an AC and DC component to them. Okay, so that's it for questions for now. Please remember to subscribe or visit AddOhms.com to keep up with videos or send more questions. And I do want to thank you guys for sending all of the great questions you have so far via Twitter, Facebook, and the video comments. Please keep them coming, and thank you again for watching.